Hello, everyone, to those listening live or our Supporters Club members who are catching this on delay. It's the Let'sRun.com Track Talk podcast, live Silesia Diamond League breakdown. The Diamond League is back, and so are we. Great meet this afternoon over in Poland. Keely Hodgkinson kicked things off even before the TV window started. One of the performances of the day, world leading 154.74 in her first race back in over a year. Faith Kipyegon came oh so close to the world record in the women's 3,000 meters, 8:07.04, number 2 all time. Gudov Sagai also went for the world record. I mean, what else is new? She's going to do that in the women's 1,500. She got a big win, 350.62, but couldn't quite hold on to the world record pace. Beatrice Chebet runs 354 there as well. Big PB for her. Yared Nuguse gets his 4th career Diamond League win, and his quest to earn the wild card spot to the World Championships is picking up steam. A little bit of a slower race, but they all count the same on the Diamond League circuit in terms of the points. Melissa Jefferson Wooden looks incredible again, 10.66. Sha'Carri Richardson struggles again in the women's 100 meters. Karsten Warholm rounding into shape nicely, 46.28, third fastest time in history. Masai Russell, 12.19, goes sub 12.20 again. Really good meet. A lot of great performances to recap. Well done. I enjoyed it. What do you think?
Great meet. I mean, this thing was stacked across the board. Like nearly every event.
Yeah, I didn't even mention the biggest one. The head-to-head showdown. Lyles Thompson, the Olympic rematch. I feel like I fumbled the intro there, but Kishane Thompson gets the win, but Noah Lyles making up ground with every week. They're going to race again in Lausanne next week, and then the World Championships in Tokyo. I think that men's 100 is going to be interesting as well.
Yeah, that one was interesting. Kenny Bednarek, probably his worst race of the year, I thought. But
yeah,
like that race, John, the standards were so good across the board. Like you had Diamond League records, world record attempts that came pretty close. The number 3 all-time time, the women's hurdles time was great. Like, but you didn't quite get the world record. Like this meet was almost like it was so good. Like, but not something like you're not going to remember any one of these performances, I think.
I mean, Faith Kipyegon, 8:07.04. Well, then, I mean, come on, that Chinese record. Tim Hutchings was all but like yelling it on the broadcast. Like, a lot of people are going to view this as the world record, and I mean, I basically do as well. So I'll remember 8:07.04. I guess unless Beatrice Chebet shows up next year and runs like 8:05. But that was a great performance.
Well, that is the one caveat, because I think it still could go. I think that race wasn't perfect, but I think I know where I want to start with this race, John, with this meet. And unfortunately, people in America or people without a VPN didn't get to see this one. You needed to see it on the BBC. You need a VPN, guys. Go to letsrun.com/VPN. But it was Keely Hodgkinson in the women's 800 meters. This went off before the TV window, the official TV window. This was her first race since the Olympic final a year ago. And there was like zero letdown. This was crazy to me. When they said that the lights were going out at, I think, 1:55, John, the meet record, I was like, well, this is her first race? Like, what? But Mo, Bobby Kersey, the model was shown today what is possible. With that amount of talent, and this is the talent that Mo has, there's no reason to be messing around at 2:02. Like something is so off with that. She just goes out and blasts 1:54.74. Her PB is 1:54.61. So they clearly knew in training everything is going well. They must have some indication in training, like, yeah, 1:55 isn't crazy, and she exceeded it. I was stunned by that run, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, we said on the regular podcast earlier this week, what do you expect from Keely? I said I thought 1:57 and a win. And to come out and run within 1300ths of a second of her fastest time ever was incredible. Now, Tim Hutchings did say on the broadcast she's been she's been working out in spikes for the last 6 weeks, and her coach Trevor Painter thought she was in close to world record shape. So as soon as Tim said that, I kind of thought, oh, okay, she's going to win this and like run pretty fast. But we didn't know going in, remember, because she withdrew from her Keely Classic race in February, hamstring issue. She was going to run the London Diamond League, had to push that back. And I do think there are two ways you can come back. You can either try to race your way into shape, build up gradually, or you can just say, wait, I'm going to wait until I feel totally ready, until I feel like I'm the best in the world again, and then I'm going to come back and just rip it. And that's clearly what they did. I would have to think that Hodgkinson could have raced a couple weeks ago if she wanted to and run very well, but there weren't really many races going on then. So just like, we'll just take our time, come back, and when we're ready, we're at 100%, we're firing on all cylinders, because that's what we got today. This was prime Keely Hodgkinson, and if this is what she can do in her first race, I mean, we're going to have Lausanne on Wednesday, and then the Worlds, but she, would it like stun me if she runs 153 in Tokyo? Not totally. I mean, she looks like she never left.
Yeah, I mean, definitely looks like she didn't leave. I just did it, John. It's one of those records. If we thought people talk about the 806, why do people talk about the 806 record? The 800 record's much older. I had to look it up. I have no idea what it is. I'm like, it's 153 something, 153.28. I mean, this is what, a second and a half is a lot. I mean, you're really not close to it, especially, and it's marginal improvements at this point. It's hard to get down there, but you start sort of wondering, okay, at least if she can she get the 153s? Can she get close to it? I don't think this was peak Keely, or the intention for this to be peak Keely. So it'll be interesting to see what happens the rest of the year.
At the Olympics last year, I remember talking to our coach, Trevor Painter, and he said, yeah, we do this workout. It's a couple 400s, and it's really good at predicting our times. And they had done it before the Olympics, and he said this predicts that she's in 153 shape. And he wasn't saying 153.2. There's a difference between like 153.9 and 153.2, but their aim after the Olympics last year was to go to Brussels and try to run 153. Hodgkinson ended up withdrawing, obviously didn't compete again until now. But no, this was amazing. She's clearly the favorite for the World Championships. She finished almost 2 seconds ahead of Lilian Odiro of Kenya, who was second in 156.52, which is the number 2 time in the world this year. It's just a humongous gap, super impressive stuff. And we're going to welcome on Robert Johnson. Robert, are you in a car or in an apartment? Or I can't exactly tell where you're doing this from, but he's zooming in from vacation. So thanks for joining us, Robert. What did you think about Keely's race?
Got a Starlink going. This is very impressive. Thank you, Rojo.
You got to unmute yourself, Robert, and then we're all good.
Can you hear me? I'm not sure if the Starlink is working.
We can.
Yes,
yeah.
in the car. I spent about 30 minutes trying to find a place so you could see the ocean behind me. I could not find a place that would work, so that's why I'm late. I apologize. The visuals are not good, but this was an indictment of, I mean, going into the meet, we were talking about if Chebet gets the world record, what does that mean to Kipyegon's legacy? And John's like, nothing. Why would one athlete's performance impact another? To me, this was just Keely was incredibly impressive, but there was no way to watch that race and not just think, what does this mean to Bobby Kersey and nothing, Mo? I mean, it's just an indictment of everything they've done for the last several years, right? This woman opens up. She's injured the whole year, and she runs 154. Basically, I was pretty far ahead of her. She's running 154, and just even in the first 200, you saw expert coaching. Did you notice how Keely took the full 100 between 100 and 200 meters to get to the diagonal? Everyone else cuts in right away. And you're just running fractions of a meter extra. But she makes a beeline. Very few people do that. All the hitter runners run in too quickly from the stacker. They shouldn't do that. She's expertly coached. It was exceptional. Now, the pacing in the women's 800 it's weird to me. She basically runs 27, 29, 28, 29. So that's kind of like the way the guys used to run it back in the day. But what a run, performance. I thought the talk of the world record was nonsense, but to see her open up like that, I'm like, like you guys, maybe it could happen. So sensational run for her. But if I'm just thinking to myself, like, is Athing-Mu watching this? What is she thinking in this race?
Who knows? But it is crazy that Mo, who has said she's been healthy the whole season, she's had trouble breaking 2 minutes, breaking 1:59, hasn't broken 1:59. And Keely Hodgkinson, who has been injured, but obviously has been training well the last few weeks, comes back so strongly. It is hard not to compare those two, Robert. I'll say that.
So that was thought number one. Epic fail for Athing-Mu and Bobby Kersey. Big success for Keely. And you see the top training group in the world for women's mid distance. And then the second thought was this was an epic fail for FloTrack. They get the Diamond League rights. It's just rent sinking. They're not adding anything. I mean, I guess they did do the show with Centro, whatever. But I just think this was a major mistake by USATF, the Diamond League, whatever, not to put this on regular TV. But they told Jonathan Gault they would have this race on TV. They did not. So, folks, this is another reason why you need a VPN. You can't trust these people. You need to have backups. I watched this whole meet on the BBC. I can rewind. I can fast forward. Get the VPN we use. Let'sRun.com/VPN. Let'sRun.com/VPN.
I mean, FloTrack clearly
wouldn't be a
had
broadcast.
an issue.
Everybody drink. It wouldn't be a broadcast without Robert complaining about some sort of the. Wouldn't be a podcast with Robert complaining some sort of the broadcast. So there it is, ladies. Everyone, you can have a shot. You're on the East Coast. This afternoon.
And I'm not going to.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've talked about. I will criticize the broadcast of the 3,000 world record attempt. But I'll wait to the end of the show to criticize that.
And
yeah,
wait, somebody here says, let's
go ahead, Walden.
Somebody says here, let's give a shout out to Raven Rogers. I honestly didn't until reminded here to give a shout out to Raven Rogers. I had not seen this result because I immediately woke up. It was 6:45. I couldn't get the stream. I was changing around. I just fired up the stream and then getting out of bed and that sort of stuff. I just saw the win. I did not even notice what Raven Rogers ran until now. And maybe I have to take back what I was saying. I think on the last podcast, I said it was changing of the guard. The 800 is wide open in America going forward. I think the big three are done. And Raven drops a 157.5 here, fourth place. That's pretty good for her.
Yeah, it's a good run. But I mean, she didn't make the team. She's a multi-time global medalist. Like I think she can get. She's just not going to be at that high level every time she goes out, But this was certainly a better run than we saw from her in the USA final, where she really wasn't in contention.
And one other note on the 800 before we move on to other events. When the 1500 went off, Georgia Hunter-Bell, Olympic bronze medalist last year in the 1500, and Keely's training partner was in that, ended up getting third,
I believe, right ahead of Hiltz.
Yeah, third. And I think like Tim Hutchins or somebody said like, oh, she must be excited about Keely's run, really motivated. And I was like, we were picking her as the gold medal favorite in the 800. That is completely gone. And people are speculating here in the chat. What do you do now if you're her? Do you go to Worlds and run the 8? It could be beautiful. A training group sweeping, going 1-2. I still think that's a huge possibility. Or does she go to the 15, back to the 15 where she had such success last year?
Well, she's talked about doing both of them, and I think that's a reasonable option for her as well. I'm just looking to see which one. So the women's 1500 comes first. Okay. Because I was going to say, yeah. I don't know. I feel like doing both is very much on the table, but it would be cool if you just go all in on the 800. That does boost your chances of an M11 track club 1-2. But I think she could still run the 1500 and come back and run pretty well in the 8. So I think she might be leaning towards both.
I think you do both, but you could easily not medal in the 1500.
Right.
So, but also you could come away with 2 medals. Keely's most likely going to win the gold. You're not going to eclipse that. So I think, and nothing is certain in the 8 either for her. It's in uncharted territory. So I think she'll probably do both.
I agree. You need to do both. But before today, if you're running for the gold, I can see the option of just running the 800 fresh. But look, hand the gold to Keely now. I mean, this was a solo run. She's sensational. So I think you double. I mean, you got the silver medal last year, or you got the bronze medal last year in the 1500. I think you want 2 cracks of the apple. You're running pretty well in the 15. You run that. Depending on how that goes, I mean, it tire you out a little bit, but then you come back to the 8. But she's still in the hunt for the silver medal there. I mean, I guess you could go all in on one, but I think after today, you'd rather have 2 chances at a medal versus 1 chance at a silver medal.
I think that makes the most sense, Robert. And I would have her 4th in the 1500 right now, behind Kipyegon, Hull, and Welteji, who was entered today but didn't end up running. But again, I would have had her 4th probably going into the 4th or 5th, maybe going into the final last year, and she ended up beating Welteji for the bronze. So yeah, I think running both probably makes sense. All right, let's go on to the women's 3,000 meters. I would say this was the performance of the day. Keely's one's going to get the most headlines, but in terms of what was just the best overall, most impressive run, I think it was this one. She said ahead of time she wanted to go for the world record, 8:06:11 by Wang Zhengxia of China. Stood since 1993. A lot of questions about that. There was this letter that Zhengxia wrote in 1995 or signed that she said she had been forced to take performance-enhancing drugs. Her coach said they never took it. I don't know. There's a lot of question marks about those times, but no one's really come close to that mark until this year. Beatrice Chebet runs 8:11 earlier this year in Rabat. And then we've got Jessica Hull, the Olympic silver medalist in the 1500, offering up her services to pace Faith Kipyegon in a world record attempt. In a Let'sRun.com interview by our own Robert Johnson in Philadelphia, Kipyegon's team sees that interview. They say, hey, yes, we'd actually like to go for the world record. Would you like to pace us? They get it together. They do it in Silesia. Hull leads her through. I mean, I thought this was terrific pacemaking, by the way, by Seicha de Klerk through 1,200 meters and then by Hull through 2K. They were, slight. I think they were very close to the splits, and they were close enough that if Kipyegon had a kick on the last lap, she would have gotten it. She needed a 62.0 last lap, which is doable, though she clearly was hurting at the bell. She ran 62.9, 8:07:04, misses it by less than a second. Sensational run, 4 seconds faster than what Chebet did earlier this year. And I looked at that, I'm like, hey, that was a really, really good performance. I think you could argue it's just as good as her 3:48, or at least very close to the 3:48 world record she ran earlier this year. It's just a really, really hard world record to get. So I think credit for her for going for it. And I do think if she takes another crack at it next year, or if Beatrice Chebet takes a crack at it at some point, I do think that record can be broken. But great run by Kipyegon.
It would be great to see her and Chebet square off at this distance.
Well, yeah, I was thinking, if you had Chebet pacemaking for the first 2,800 or something, I do think Kipyegon gets it. But at the same time, Chebet would want to get the record for herself. So one of those two women, if you're working together, and problem is when you start working together, you start thinking about the win and less about the record. So it's tough if you had them in the same race. But yeah, it was a great run.
I mean, I couldn't believe it. Little Rojo goes on vacation, and I read an article that Jessica Hull is pacing Faith Kipyegon thanks to an interview I did. I mean, it's just like I'm making news when I'm trying to relax, get away from the sport for a few days. So, look, I thought this would, it was a very good effort, extremely close. Good pacemaking, a cool story. I mean, I was hoping it was going to go viral. Olympic silver medalist is pacing Olympic gold medalist and world record attempt. I mean, when do you ever see that? So this was a testament to Faith Kipyegon's legacy, how beloved she is by her fellow competitors. And to everyone who says every Kenyan's doping, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of Kenyans doping, but there's a lot of people who believe in Faith Kipyegon, including almost all of her competitors. So to all the naysayers, screw you. This was just a testament to like the sisterhood that exists in the women's 1500 for the most part. So cool run, good effort. I kind of, if I'm going to nitpick, and Weldon's, it wouldn't be a thing if I wasn't criticizing. I kind of wish that they had sort of had the pacing lights, knowing that she's going to slam down the last lap because she falls behind the lights and then she has to try to catch up. But it did. The one criticism of the broadcast was, I was like, Tim Hutchings is talking about, well, I think she can get the record, but he never talks about, we know what the record is. All you have to do is look at those lights. And I honestly think they should take off the lights in the last lap. It makes it more dramatic for the fans. I think that should be a rule. But like, we could tell she was behind the lights. She was catching up to them, but she wasn't going to get there. So it was kind of funny to me that the broadcaster would ignore the lights. And like, he's like, I think she can get it, but he was like ignoring the fact that she was sniffing behind the lights. And then the broadcasters, I didn't understand this. She's running home and they put up the graphic of the world lead on the time. They don't put up what the world record is. Now, thankfully, Tim yelled out, the world record is 8:06.1. So you knew what it was. And then you realized she was going to miss it. But I was like, what type of, how does this happen? Like in the TV production meeting, what graphics do we want to put up in the world record attempt? Let's put up the world lead graphic when she's running home instead of putting up the world record graphic. Like,
well, Robert, if we're going to complain about the broadcast, just wait till we get to the men's 1500, because that one drove me out of my mind. But it was fine. I mean, yeah, you could tell. I do agree having those pace lights on there, like going to the home straight. I'm like, well, she's not going to get that. I'm like, she's going to come just short, but you can kind of tell watching these races, sorry, she's not going to get it by the finish line. So that does remove some drama. But yeah, 8:07, just a sensational run.
Maybe because I was on my phone for a lot of the race. Were the lights hard for you guys to see? There's actually a Let's Run visitor coming out with a more affordable pacing system, and he said one of the tough things is making the lights being able to be seen during the day. Like the lights are just much harder. It's much harder to do that, but you could see them pretty well, John. Maybe on this race,
I could absolutely see them. Yeah,
must have been looking at the wrong spot, but I wonder if like Jess Hull tried to go like another 200 or something. I feel like when she dropped off, that's when I thought there was no way she was going to do it. I mean, I guess she was still a second off when she needed a 60 or something, a 59 the last lap. I was like, that's not.
No, she needed a 62 flat the last lap. It was doable. Like
I think. No, excuse me. I'm thinking like the last 200. She needed like under 30.
29 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, because she ran 15.7, 14.9. What's that? 30.6. Yeah. So I was like, she'd been running 65s, and I'm like, is she really going to drop a 29 here? She came much closer than I thought. I'll give her that much.
Yeah, I mean, it was mid-80s temperatures, so it was very similar actually to the weather that Jakob Ingebrigtsen had for his world record on this track last year. And maybe if it's 20 degrees cooler, that helps her a little bit. But I think this record attempt was, in terms of the pacing setup and how far they took her, pretty great, pretty optimal setup, and that's why she was able to get so close. I think it's a hard record to break. All right, women's 1500 meters. Now, if you watch this one live, you were probably thinking, how the hell did Gudaf Sagai run a 57-second lap? That's certainly the first thing I was thinking. Like, whoa. So the first lap looked like she went out a little bit more sensibly. Then the second lap totally took off and dropped everyone. Actually, it turns out the clock was just wrong. And that Sagai did what she always does. She went out in 59.3, which is too fast. Two flat 0.4 through 800. She tried to run the world record and she slowed down at the end. She still won by a lot. 350.62, just off of her personal best. Incredibly fast time. No one was close to her. Beatrice Chebet 354.73 for second, and then Georgia Hunnebell 356 flat. Nikki Hiltz 356.10. But I mean, do we just need to repeat what we always say about Sagai? She could run faster if she paced herself better. Going out in 59.3 and 2 flat 0.4 when there are fine margins involved going after these world records. It's not like she's in 346 shape and can just afford to pace it incorrectly. When you're going after a mark as good as 348.68, you need to get the pacing right. Gudaf Sagai never does.
Yeah, when I originally saw she ran a 57-second lap, I was like, this is the most crazy thing I've ever seen in my life. I was like, how is that possible? I'm like, what was she thinking? I'm like, okay, for once she held back. But John, to me, that means the rabbit was going too fast. Were they way ahead of the lights?
They look to be. I thought they were pretty close to the lights, but well, if the rabbit was too fast, look, maybe the rabbit screwed up, but you've also got to think, why was the rabbit going out that fast? Maybe because the guy requested it. You know, like no one else was interested in going that far. I guess. Sorry, there was one I think it was Berke Hailom. There was one Ethiopian who did. No, it was Worknesh Misel. I think who did go with her for a little bit. Actually, no, the results are saying Berke Hailom. It was one of those two, but I think it might have been Hailom who tried to hang on, but no one else was interested in going out in 59.3. So maybe the rabbits did a bad job, but I would think the more likely explanation is the guy told them go out in 59 flat because that's how fast I want to go out.
I mean, after seeing this one, and once again, this is just crazy pacing. I just would like to see her once go out just a little bit slower and see what could happen. I don't think she still gets the world record, but I think she could come pretty close. Who knows? Like, this is just not the right way to run it. And like time and time again. But the one caveat is this might have been the best way for her to win the race. Just because of the inexperience of Beatrice Chebet in this, she completely took her out of the race. Beatrice Chebet's like, well, 60 seconds, that's crazy, and just was so far back. She ends up 4 seconds back, but, dusting everybody else. I don't know. I sort of expected more from her in this race, but also the way it played out, maybe she's sort of out of the race mentally and that sort of stuff. So I'm not convinced that 354.7 is the best for Beatrice Chebet. We could pull up her splits here.
100% agree with you. I think if Sagai's goal was to win the race, that is the correct strategy, is try to just drop Chebet early. Because if we think about how Chebet has raced earlier this year, with her 5,000, I think it was in Rome, where she closed really hard. Like, she's a bit cautious in some of these races. And I think especially she's running this distance for the first time. We know she wasn't, she was not going to go right with Sagai. So I think she came away saying she was happy in the post-race quotes with 354. But I agree with you. If she ran more aggressively, I think she would run faster. But her first time running these distances, I think she prefers to take a more cautious approach, and that's why she ran 354.
I mean, here's Sagai splits: 14.5, 43.86. I mean, like, good for 300 meters. 74.7. I don't have her 400 split thing I'm looking at now. I mean, she's like sub 60 for 500 meters. That's just crazy. You're not trying to run sub 4, for the mile, essentially. They should have actually had her come pace Faith sub 4 attempt. Whereas Chebet actually went out 45.4. That's very quick. And she was so far behind. It's just crazy. She actually did go out probably quicker than I thought she would have.
Correct. The way Sagai runs is insanity. If I was a meet director, I would not let her run this way. Like, people are saying, did the rabbit go too hard? The rabbit wasn't that far ahead of the lights. Like, I think she wanted this, which is insanity to me. I'm amazed she held on to win. She went out this hard, and I was like, okay, she's going to blow up and get caught. She's going to get caught by Chebet, and it really wasn't close. And I don't know how much harder we would really want Chebet to go out. I mean, as Weldon said, she went out in 45.4. Here's Chebet's splits: 15.09, then her 200-meter splits from there: 30.31, 31.1, 31.95. So she's just slowing down. 32.11, 32.5, 31.3, 30.34. So she did close, in 61.6, which isn't bad. Runs 354. I mean, she beats Hunter Bell. She beats Hiltz. So, I
Robert, we can't hear you. Robert, you're muted at the moment.
Kipyegon, I think the talk of can she break the 1,500-meter world record is overrated. And, like Kipyegon's the best at the 15. Chebet's the best at the 5 and the 10. And they can have their separate legacies.
Oh, so Kipyegon's legacy wasn't tarnished by this result, Robert?
No, but look, we had this debate. If you didn't listen to the regular podcast, if you haven't been on the message board, I said if Chebet goes out and runs a world record today in the 1500, what does that mean to Faith Kipyegon's legacy? To me, it was going to impact her legacy. How can you say Kipyegon is the GOAT, the greatest of all time, when we would have a woman who would have the world records of the 1500, 5000, and 10,000 at the best time and would be better at the 1500 than Kipyegon when Kipyegon is in her prime? To me, it would tarnish the legacy. We haven't seen anyone in
6 gold medals. That's how, Robert. Faith Kipyegon has 6 gold medals. Beatrice Chebet has 2. So, records on the be-all, end-all.
In the immediate moment when Bekele comes on the scene, is Gebre Selassie's legacy tarnished? Tarnished is way too strong of a word.
Yeah. You can reevaluate performances. Also, Robert, what GOAT are we arguing here? Faith Kipyegon's the GOAT of the 1500, and even if she lost the world record, that doesn't change at all. If we're talking about the greatest women's distance runner in history, then that's something. She would still be the best, even if Chebet somehow managed to break all 3 of those world records, because that GOAT is about legacy and the entire career. It's not just about who was the very best at their absolute peak. Chebet's operating at an insanely high level right now, but Kipyegon's been doing this for a decade, and that counts. That matters. So that's how you make the argument. It's about longevity and consistency, and not just a really high 2-year peak.
I realized I was kind of defining GOAT the wrong way, because GOAT is more of a lifetime achievement award. To me, I'm interested in peak, the greatest of all time in one moment. Who was the greatest? Who could never be beaten? Could peak Shohei Ohtani beat peak Babe Ruth? And what do you think about this comment? I mean, I'm not sure if I agree with this. Panasha Navira on YouTube is saying Kipyegon is for sure the best runner in the world right now across all distances. Nobody in any other race is as dominant as she is. Sydney is, but doesn't have enough accolades to compete. That to me would be an interesting debate.
Well, I mean, you can't say for sure. I would say Chebet in the 10K, because she's going to face Kipyegon in the 5K. And she did beat her in Paris, but I wouldn't say she's a lock to beat Kipyegon in Tokyo, though I'd have Chebet as the favorite in that race. But Chebet in the 10K, way better than everyone else. Kipyegon in the 1500, way better than everyone else. Sydney in the 400 hurdles, way better than everyone else. I don't think Faith is the obvious answer there, even though she has blown out the fields the last few championships. All right. And in terms of other results from this race, Georgia Hunter Bell 3rd, Nikki Hiltz 4th, 3:56.10, only a tenth of a second behind Hunter Bell. Nikki, they beat Frowani Hailu, who has been very good, but won't be running the 1500 at Worlds this year. I was hoping Welteji would be in this race because, again, she's one of the women who I think is going to be a threat to medal. I would have her as the silver medal favorite right now. So for Hiltz not to get the chance to stack up against Welteji a month after Welteji demolished them at pre, you're not getting all the data there. But that close to Georgia Hunter Bell, that's promising to me for Nikki Hiltz. They closed the gap a little bit from the pre-classic, and this was a strong run, 3:56.10 coming over in Europe. It's a good result, but I would have Kipyegon, Welteji, or probably Welteji or Hull. You'd need one of them to really probably have a bad race, and then you'd need to beat Hunter Bell as well. So Nikki Hiltz, I think 5th. That's probably where I'd have Hiltz right now, but those top 3 are really, really good.
John, did you see the race between her and Bell? I wasn't focused on that at all. I'm kind of curious. I guess maybe shouldn't evaluate it too much.
They're showing Sagai up front.
Yeah. That's the thing. I wasn't watching. I guess it doesn't matter because they're going to be in a second pack and sort of kicking on their own. So maybe the way it came about doesn't matter too much. I honestly thought they would run faster than that, but it's just that they're in a completely second different race. But to be that close to Bell is a good thing. Nikki's got to be thinking medal at the Worlds. I think she's on the outside, just barely on the outside looking in now. And the other thing that stands out to me is like Heather McLean, Olympian in 2021. This was a PB for her. She runs 3:57.79, PB by almost by more than half a second, and only gets her 8th. But what that shows to me is because at the U.S. level we kind of not anymore. Nikki sort of emerged, but like it used to be like, oh, McLean, Houlihan, Nikki, they're all in contention. No, there's a big gap. Like Nikki's such a clear number one here. I mean, almost. I mean, yeah, like what? Almost. What is that? A second and a half. It's just. It's much more than it looks on paper, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
There's been a clear pecking order all season long in the women's 1500 in the U.S. And it's Hiltz, Sinclair Johnson next, then Emily Mackay, then Heather McLean. That's basically what it's been the whole season, and that's what it was at USA's.
Look, I was a little bit disappointed in Hiltz here. I thought this was a wonderful opportunity to get the American record, but kind of the way the race played out, you had like Segay way up front, then Chebet way up front, and then there was a pack of everybody else kind of. So she was like in the third pack. But if you're talking about Hunter Bell versus Hiltz, Hunter Bell just, we couldn't see this on TV, but the splits are pretty clear. Hunter Bell came from behind to beat Hiltz, beat Hiltz by 0.10, closed in 29.59 for the last 200. Hiltz closed in 29.9. So Hiltz had a gap on her, and they were pretty much from 900 on in, almost exactly split. Same splits: 33.5, 33.4, 31.9, 31.7, 30.5, 30.5, 29.6 versus 29.9. So it was in the last 200 that she got her, that Hunter Bell got her. So I was really thinking on the regular podcast, okay, Nikki's going to get the American record here. Kind of the way the race played out, didn't get the opportunity.
I think also this shows sort of sure shoes have changed everything. And I guess Houlihan's record 3:54.99 wasn't set with super shoes because she didn't wear them. But we're in an era now, like none of these American records are easy. I still expect this one to go down. I think Hiltz will probably run one more before the Worlds. I think it could go there. Is there a race before the final, John? I don't know if she's going to be or they will be in the final.
I'm not sure whether there's another 1500 before the final. But I mean, the final's an opportunity, and the World Championship final it's always fast these days. Like I think Nikki,
never mind.
Forget about like trying for the American record the next 2 Diamond Leagues. It'll come in the final. If you'll probably take an American record to medal in Tokyo. So that's where it would come.
I mean, almost certainly, unless I don't know. I guess it kind of depends on what Faith does at the beginning. Faith should win the race no matter what the tactics are. So she could let it go slow, and then she just kicks away and runs 3:54 herself, and everyone's else is 3:56. Or do you think she just like, oh, I'm gonna
the last few, it's been fast. It's been like low 350s winning times. So that's what I think it's going to be. Okay. An American man won a Diamond League 1500. I guess we're just used to this now because Nuguse has won Diamond Leagues in each of the last 3 years. We had Jonah Koech win a Diamond League earlier this year as well for the US. But I thought this was a good run. I viewed him as the favorite in this race. There was no Jakob. There was no Laros. There was no Kerr, no Hawker, no Fanuel Koech. Said, look, if Nuguse is going to do this thing and win the Diamond League final, this is a field he should be beating. And he did it. And I had a couple thoughts about this race. One, who the hell requested 3:27 pace in this one? I know all these Diamond Leagues are fast these days, but Ollie Hoare was the only one to go with it. And if Ollie Hoare requested 327 pace. He's a maniac, and I'm not sure why the Diamond League organizers would listen to him anyway. So I don't know who requested it. I thought it was crazy that Hoare went with it, and yeah, they just got strung out. So it ended up being a very slow race by Diamond League standards. Pretty much everyone was still in it on the last lap because they were reeling in Hoare, and then on the back straight, I thought Nuguse did well. I think Nuguse, honestly, usually you would expect him to be kind of pushing it and trying to bridge that gap to Hoare. He just didn't want to do that. He didn't want to be leading or in second or anything. So he sort of held back a little bit, let the other guys do it. And then on the back straight, Nordas makes his bid for the lead on the outside. And at that point, Nuguse was well positioned to respond. He responds immediately, beats him to 200, and closes well for the win, 25-7, 12-7, last 100. I thought it was really good for him. Reynald Chariot had an amazing close. He closed in 25-4, 12-1 for his last 100. But he was really boxed in and just not in position. He tried to mow everyone down on the rail and had too much work to do. But I was impressed by Nuguse putting himself in position to win and then being decisive, because that's sometimes we see an issue that's been an issue for him in some of these big races. And obviously he wasn't facing some of the big guns, but for him to respond to Nordas' move immediately and get to the front with 200, I thought that was a good job, well managed race by Nuguse.
I thought his tactics were good. He did what he should do. He's better than everyone in this field right now, and he dispatched them. I thought, I guess if you told me like, oh, it's going to be 333, is Nuguse going to win? I might say no. Like, these guys might have a better kick than him, but I think tactically he was phenomenal, and it was sort of weird with Hoare so far in front. And that pace is crazy. I don't know what they were thinking, but you don't have Koech in this one. You don't have either of the Koeches. You don't have Laros. Who else? What other big guns will be at the Diamond League final, John, who aren't here? Hawker's skipping it, obviously.
Hawker and Kerr are both skipping it. I think the big ones would be Azzedine Hobbs, who has around 327, Fanuel Koech, possibly Laros, possibly Jonah Koech. Those are the big guys he would have to beat. And that's going to be a step up. I would still have Fanuel Koech favored over Nuguse going into the final, but he's got a chance. He's certainly going to be in the final, which we can't say for Hobbs Kessler. I mean, Kessler only got 2 points today, finishing in 7th place. He's got a lot of work to do just to make it to the final, because right now the cutoff is 9 points. There are going to be probably some scratches, but Kessler needs to run well in Brussels, like really well in Brussels, just to make the final.
But why do we care if Kessler's in the final?
Well, I mean, technically, if Kessler won the final, he would get the wild card, but I don't think that's going to happen.
It's interesting you mentioned Kessler, John, because I kind of, the way I was looking at this race, I was not focused on him at all. I only have so much bandwidth in a race, and my attention was on Nuguse and Hoey. Like, I didn't really pay attention at all to Kessler until the results came out. And that's sort of crazy. Well, this kid was 5th at the Olympics last year as, what, 20-year-old? 21. And now I'm like, even as an American, he's an afterthought in this race. But, he can't get beat by Cam Myers. Hoey's having such a phenomenal season. Like, if you told me last year, Josh Hoey's going to be, like, placing very high in Diamond Leagues. I mean, today he was only 5th, but in both the 8 and the 15, I'll have the number 2 time in the world at 800. You'd be like, oh, phenomenal season. Instead, he's raised the bar so much and a world indoor gold that his outdoor season is a disappointment, just solely because he didn't make the team for USA's in 800. And that's just because of Cooper Luskenhouse.
Look, first of all, I'm glad that Hoare did something in this race. I mean, I said it. The first time Nuguse beat all those guys in the OAC, I said they all need to leave the group. They're never going to beat Nuguse again, and it's been proven. And Hoare keeps getting into Diamond Leagues, but he's not really – I can't believe we didn't talk about the regular podcast. I'm sure there's poor Hoare has his own podcast. I'm sure he has fans, but it's not fair to be so negative on him. but it's like he lost to Sir Walter Meyer mile earlier in the week to Kai Robinson. So it's good that he went for it and tried to shake this race out, because if he runs a normal 1500, he's going to get destroyed by these guys at this point in his career. If I'm him, I immediately leave Rich's group and try to find another group, because it's just not working for him in this group anymore. So if you keep doing the same thing, it's the definition of insanity. But in terms of Kessler versus Hoey, what did I say on Tuesday, the regular podcast? I said Kessler had better beat Hoey. He absolutely has to beat Hoey here, and he didn't do it. So all this talk about how, on the message board, some guys like, I'm a huge Kessler fan, and if USA's, if they run that race again, it could go differently. I'm like, under what scenario do we think that Kessler would make that team? I don't see any scenario he'd make the team. Like, oh, he's improved this year. And I'm like, I've seen no marks that he's going to improve. So I'm like, he better run 327 or 328 for me to see that he's improved this year. I think this is a letdown year. But one thing to remember, if I'm going to put my coaching hat back on, is he had an amazing year last year. He made the team in 2 events. Sometimes the next year is kind of a down point. Everything went right last year. This year, maybe it's a slightly disappointment. You've got to stick with it. But as he said, everything's on the table. Like, he ran a perfect race at USA and just got smoked. And today, now he's losing to Hoey. And speaking of Hoey, there's an interesting discussion on the message board right now saying, should Hoey Papa F? Hoey has a better chance in the 1500 Diamond League final rather than the 800. Not saying he'll win it, but his odds are way higher. The top dogs are 800 and still running it. That's the issue. And the 800, the top dogs will be there. Hoey's in there. The 1500, the top dogs will not be in there. Hoey's in there. I think Hoey has no chance in either one. If I was him, I would run the 800. He's an 800-meter runner. You want to try to compete with the best. That's your way to imitate Worlds. Say, okay, if I had made Worlds, what would have happened? How would I have done? And, could I have medaled? And you just take your one shot. And yeah, you're not going to go to Worlds, but like, he wins the 50. First of all, he's not going to win the 1500-meter final. And then if he did win the 1500-meter final, he's going to get destroyed in the 1500 Worlds anyways. So if I'm Hoey, I'm giving up on Worlds, and I'm just going to the Diamond League final, and I'm running the 8. Maybe A-Rop and when you only go down in the fall, maybe they get the pacing wrong. But I want to see how I stack up in my main event against the big dogs in the second biggest race of the year. So if I'm Hoey, screw the talk of the Worlds. The Worlds is not the end all and be all. Go to the 800 at the Diamond League final and run that. Do you agree or disagree?
100% run that. I mean, you can still think of Worlds. If he wins the Diamond League final, he's going. And again, like you said, it's going to be tough. Or if Donovan Brazier wins the Diamond League final, Josh Hoey's going, but I'm not sure Brazier will even be coming over and qualified. But look, what's the logic for him winning the 1500? He was 5th in this race today, which you would think a race like this, he was there kicking with 100 to go, he might have a shot. He was 5th, and there were a bunch of the top 1500 guys missing. If he's only 5th in this race, how's he winning the 1500 final in Zurich?
I 100% agree with you guys. He's an 800-meter runner. Let's get back to big picture. He's been phenomenal at 800 this year. Even that race at USA's was not that bad for me. If you told me you're going to run, what was it, 143 low, I'm like, you're on the team. No, sorry. I mean, it was just, it's one of these, and that was the best strategy for him. Could he have run half a second faster? Sure, he could have done it slightly, definitely not quite as fast the first lap, but like, it's not, I would say he ran a B+ race at USA's. It was pretty good. And guys, his coach is on here. Justin Rinaldi is in the chat. He agrees the 800 is the way to go. Like, I want to see what he can deliver. Go for it. Put on a performance. If you win it, my God, you're at the World Championships. But if you like push Wanyoni to the line or battling with A-Rop and come out in 3rd, like, we're just well played, man. Like, that is great. That's why I want to see him taking on the best guys in the world. He's got to be thinking, how can I be the best in the world next year? Or maybe this year I get a shot at the World Championships. So that's what I want to see.
You got nothing to lose. Just go out there, send it, do what you can in the final, go for it. Yeah, it'll be fun to see. I'm glad him and Nuguse are going to have the chance to run their way on the team. Because how cool would it be if one of them makes it and then they come into Worlds and they're just like, I'm freaking here, man. It's like a wild card team getting hot in the playoffs, and then they're suddenly in the Super Bowl, and can they upset the heavy favorite? That would be fun to see.
And people are asking here in the chat why they're surprised his kick wasn't better in the 1500. We've said this multiple times. I mean, sure you've seen it with Jonah Koech, but I think he's probably more of a 1,500-meter runner. A lot of these 800 guys in a slower race, like the transition in speed isn't there. The 800 is more of a go out faster and hang on second half race. It's not like go out slow and slam down speed at the end of the race. It's a different system, I think, or a different type of race. So these 800 guys are not used to like going faster at the end of the race. They're actually going slower the last 100 than they are, the other parts of the race. Okay, am I missing any distance events, or do we now turn to some of the sprint action?
No, let's talk men's 100. Because that was the big headline showdown. We've got the
wait, John. Wait, I have to make a correction, a caveat. I said you don't go fast for the last 100, and Funky Jam Dude says unless you're Cooper Luckenhouse. I think he's right.
He's the exception. He just defies everything we know about 800-meter running. So, yeah. Okay. Men's 100. This was Lyles versus Kishane Thompson for the first time since their Olympic showdown in Paris. It was also Lyles against Kenny Bednarek for the first time since their, little shoving match at USA's in the 200 meters. And Thompson wins it in 9.87. But I came away from this race thinking, okay, Lyles has to be the guy who's happiest with this result, right? Because Thompson wins at 9.87, Lyles second in 9.90, which is a big improvement from his 10.0 in London earlier this year. And then Kenny Bednarek, well beaten third in 9.96. If I'm Noah Lyles, I'm like, okay, I've closed the gap quite a bit. Now, maybe Thompson, he's run 9.75 earlier this year, but that was in Jamaica. It was not over in Europe. And Lyles is probably saying to himself, look, give me one more month. I can beat this guy in Tokyo.
Yeah, if you're Noah Lyles, you're very pleased with this race. He was pretty far back. I mean, he closes so well. I think Thompson's top end speed wasn't there, but yeah, I think Noah Lyles has to be the happiest with this race, even though he lost. Because I easily could have seen him getting third in this race, being further back. He's only 0.05 beside Thompson now. I think that's pretty good. But also, I also sort of wonder, Thompson ran what, like 9.95 in Poland or in Hungary earlier in the week. That was into headwind, but there was a gap between the Jamaican championships till now. So there sort of could be two halves to the seasons, sort of like what you saw with Karsten Warholm in the hurdles. So I think, they're going to race again in 4 days here, something like that.
Right. That's the optimistic spin on it. Well, then if you're more negative, you would say, okay, he ran 9.75 the Jamaican trials the end of June, but the World Championships are in the middle of September. Can he hold that form? Like Lyles, the injury, he wouldn't have chosen to get injury, but he's building up. He's getting stronger every week. Thompson, you're trying to hold on to that. And they did say he had some travel issues. Like he got in late to this meet. He had competed in Hungary earlier this week. He's still winning everything. I think he's very much I'd still have him as the slight favorite at World Championships, but it'd be interesting to see what they do in Lausanne next week. And the other thing with Thompson, just the end of his race today was very sloppy. Lyles, I think you can always sort of count to be powering forward and like he's going to finish very strong. Thompson did not. He was swaying. He was on one side of the lane, he was in lane 5. He was almost into lane 6. And then at the very end of the race, it was like he was trying to run the curve, in a 200 or something. So as he's going to the finish, he's like going all the way across to the inside and basically crosses in lane 4. And he still won, but that running in a straight line, that's the fastest way to get to the finish line. So in a really tight race, like what we saw in in Paris last year, that's going to hurt you. And I just think, you can't make that kind of mistake in the World Championships because I think the margins could be very tight once again.
There was a comment here by Kamani Evans. Kishane has been loaded back up since this championship. He doesn't need to peak again until September. Kishane is head of Noah. Relax. Your bias is evident. I think he is ahead of him right now. Well, obviously he won the race.
He beat him,
and that's what I was just trying to say. I was just trying to say he might have backed off comeback. And this was an improvement. He ran 95 early in the week, the European travel, whatever. He's late getting to this run. But 995 into a wind isn't that much different from a 987 with a slight tailwind. It's probably, I don't know. We could put it in a calculator. But yes. Who do I think is the favorite for the World Championships? This one made it a lot closer for me. Beforehand, I was like, you ride the Kishane Thompson train for sure. But yeah, I look, his top end is better. They've shown actually peak 100 meter top time. Who's the fastest? It's Thompson. The times don't lie, but it's getting closer for Noah.
Look, Kevin Akers says everyone said the same thing last year. Kishane is tops. What happened when it mattered? You're right. Noah won, but they basically tied. Let's be honest. I mean, it was damn even. And look, this was your analysis on this is right. To me, the bigger story in between is this Lyles Bednarek fight. This is bad for Bednarek. He said, "Oh, I was tired at USA's in the 200. I'd run the 100. This is my year. I'm the top dog when we're both going to be equally tired." Well, they were equally tired today and it wasn't close. No beat him in the 100. So look, I think though Bednarek's a very good guy, but I don't see him winning a gold in either event. I don't see how that could happen. So I thought this was a good race for 100. Women's 100 to me was more of big picture wise, to me, the women's 100 was a bigger story. We had, yet another remarkable run up top by Melissa Jefferson Wooden, 10:66. Guess we shouldn't be shocked she ran 10:65, but this is only a 0.1 wind. She's regularly running some of the greatest performances we've ever seen in women's sprint history. How many times do we have a 10.6 without a big wind? Right? Probably less than 10 times in history, and she's done it in back-to-back times. This is insane.
Oh, Robert, I wouldn't say this is we learned more from this race than the 100, than the men's 100. This one essentially just reestablished all our priors. Like, it confirmed what we've been seeing all year. But Melissa Jefferson Wooden's, her 2025 season has just been incredible. The 1075 into a 1.5 at pre, then 1065 plus 0.4 at the USA's, and then 1066 today with the plus 0.1. It's like, that level of consistency at that speeds, that's really, really impressive stuff. We had Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price and Elaine Thompson were doing this a couple of years ago, but those are basically the two greatest sprinters of all time. So, no, it's been great. And I think it also shows you, like, Kishane Thompson, I'm not expecting Kishane Thompson to drop a 9.7 every week because that's hard to do. So the fact that Jefferson Wooden's coming out and going 10.7 into a big headwind, 10.6, 10.6, it's super impressive stuff. And the other story from this race is Sha'Carri Richardson continues to look unimpressive. Like, not a good start, finishes 6th in 11.05. We've been saying, okay, can she get it together? She's still got some time to put it together for Worlds. She had this injury in February. I don't know how serious it was or how much training she missed, but she's been competing for several months at this point, since May, and hasn't made a ton of progress. At this point, I'm not thinking about medaling. I'm like, can she even make the final in Tokyo the way she's running? And I don't think she can.
That's why it's more significant to me. I'm getting trouble. Like, we're healthy. It's been 3 months. You can't break 11? I'm not worried just about this year. I'm worried about 2026, 2027, 2028. Like, what's going on here? Like, normally one of these all-time talents like this, you give them a few months and they show progress and they get close to their old form pretty quickly. Usain Bolt, remember, like, it didn't take him very long to, ramp into shape. You could see it coming. And I said on the regular podcast, she better break 11 here. She didn't break 11. She's done for me this year. Done. And that's disappointing because I think she's a great talent. And, I like the statement she made earlier in the year about working on things and trying to be a better person. And she was disappointed how she behaved in the airport. That side of things seems to be going okay. But this, God, I mean, unless you know what's going on and are they still battling injuries or is there something going on? This to me is just major red flags. This is a woman that used to be able to break 11 or sleep. And we've got it 3 months now. This would be like Noah Lyles running 10. This would be like Noah Lyles racing for 3 months from May to August, and he can't break 10-2. We would be like, what the hell is going on?
I mean, she did get arrested a couple weeks ago, and I can't imagine that was like ideal for her. Like, it's not, she has been dealing with some off the track stuff. So perhaps that played a role, but yeah, the lack of progress is alarming, especially because she was the world champion in 2023 and the silver medalist last year. Like, she was very good when it counted both times. And going into those championships, she was the favorite for, 2023, she probably should have been the favorite over Jackson. I think some people viewed Jackson as a little bit more reliable. Last year, she was the favorite going into the Olympics. But those are two really good results. Right now, it's like, no, still not being able to break 11 seconds, and we're midway through August. That's very, very worrying.
Guys, looking at these all-time 100-meter lists, running like 10.6 more than once in a season is almost like unheard of. I mean, Elaine Thompson did it a bunch in 2021. And then Shelly Ann did it a bunch in 2022. And then Jefferson essentially has the chance to do that this year. She's already done 2. She's got a couple more races coming up in Worlds. I think those 3 seasons are going to sort of stand out. And she still could lose the World Championships this year. Let's not forget that, because Julian Alfred was not in this race, and she's been at a very good level this year. I don't think, not quite this level, but she showed last year she knows how to peak when it counts.
Yeah, they're right next to each other at pre. That's going to be a sensational showdown with those two women. And Alfred, she, I think, was initially supposed to run some of these Diamond Leagues before the final, ended up withdrawing. And the Lausanne organizers, who weren't the most reliable in terms of like announcing athletes and everything, they said, she had withdrawn due to injury. And then there was a report in the St. Lucia Times saying, actually, no, she's not injured. She's just choosing not to compete. So we'll find out the truth in Tokyo, but I do think it's a 2-woman race for the gold.
Okay. Trivia question to you guys. How many times do you think Flojo broke 10.7 in her career?
Twice.
3 times. So, look, I think we should propose a Bobby Kersey rule. He's had a disastrous season with Thingmo this year. He didn't do a very good job with Brandon Miller. We'll let him off the hook. His transgressions with his terrible coaching of Thingmo will be forgiven by the Let's Run community and the track and field community as a whole if he just admits one of the following two statements.
Oh my God, what is Robert about to say here?
One is that Florence Griffin Joyner was on drugs, and then he knows she was on drugs and whatever. Or 2, it was extremely windy in Indianapolis when she set the world record, and at a minimum, that should not be the world record. So just either mission of one of those 2 things would be fine with me.
For the record,
so
there's never been any indication that he knew Florence Griffin Joyner was on drugs or anything like that, Robert. So I just want to get that out there. Obviously, that mark is so far out there.
There's no indication that he doped.
Obviously, for the record, that record is way out there, but everyone knows it was windy. Robert, come on. That one stood out, was so much faster than her second performance. Everything was off in that race. That race should be invalidated for that reason. The wind gauge was clearly broken. That's what that world record was. We don't even need to speculate anything else about that record. And also, John, you said earlier about the 8. I will go the other direction. With the 806, you're like, there's some whatever. Come on. That one we can say it's been well documented. There was state sanctioned, or I don't know if you want to say state sanctioned doping, but like doping by that group in China. All the times were off the charts. That is clearly a drug-induced record. Flojo, you can speculate you want about performance enhancers, but I think if you got 50 track statisticians, I think at least 45 would say yes, there was something wrong with the win that day.
And people were asking, is Melissa Jefferson Wood going to get the win legal clean American record this year? In my opinion, she already has it. 1065 at the trials. That's the American clean record to me. When they did. There's no proof these other women did drugs. That's a fact. But,
And All in the Game says here that FloJo left Bobby in 87, was coached by her husband in 88.
Right, but he still that didn't mean that he wouldn't be suspicious or know what was going on. So
fair enough.
Right. And also the reason, obviously the wind thing, I think there was clearly something up with the wind in Indianapolis.
And let me say it again for the record so I don't get sued. I don't know that he knows that she was on drugs, but I assume that he knows it was windy that day in Indianapolis. So just admit one of the two so we can get this record knocked off the books, and then we can have at least the new world record would be
1054.
Lane Thompson Harris 1054 from Pre in 2021.
Okay, there's something here in the comments. I don't know if we have anything official to say about this. What about Marvin Bracey's suspension that nobody's heard about?
Here's what I can say on that right now. Marvin Bracey has not competed since 2023. He was the silver medalist in 2022 at the World Championships in the 100. Obviously, what the hell is going on? Because you just has silently not been competing for 2 years. Ray's take on Twitter, Ray Edwards, former sprinter who often spouts takes on everything in the sprint world, claims that Marvin Bracey has been serving a silent ban for the last couple of years. And he also said he's been a provisional suspension. And Ray Edwards also claimed he was provisionally suspended because he put Marvin Bracey in touch with his doctor who provided him with performance-enhancing substances. Now, I've reached out to USADA on this. Haven't heard back from them yet. I've said, is any of what Ray's take is saying true? I've also reached out to Bracey's agent, Paul Doyle, to try to get any sort of clarification on this. Haven't gotten any sort of statement from him yet. This is something we're looking into. I don't have all the facts in front of me yet, but I mean, there are two things. Ray's take is saying this. He's claiming he's serving he's claimed he's himself is serving a provisional suspension that hasn't been announced yet. And Marvin Bracey hasn't competed since 2023.
And if we're throwing out what Ray's take is saying, he's also implied that Dennis Mitchell was putting some of his athletes on performance enhancers and covering it up. So it's a huge conspiracy sort of take. There's no evidence of any of this, but like if we're essentially now it's Ray's take's word, we're looking into it behind the scenes. He is saying I have my own suspension, but he also has in the past put out some stuff that didn't turn out like before Worlds one year, he said a big Jamaican was going down. That didn't happen. So as of now, he's a former U.S. national team member. I think it's newsworthy to just sort of report what he's saying. And there's a thread on it. Let's run. We'll put it in the comments. Okay. The other big performance on the sprint side, Carson Woolholm, 46:28, I believe, number 3 all time. This was stunning. He hadn't raced in 2 months. He was third place in his last race. This is going to be great because Rai Benjamin won the Olympics last year. Has been beat Karsten in the 400 hurdles this year. Been running really well. It's going to be a great matchup at Worlds now. Karsten, said he divided the season into 2 halves. That was clear, and he came out second half season focusing on the Worlds. We're still a month away, so almost a little under. This is what you need. Well, I think this is what you need to see. Yeah, that's probably what you want to see if you want to go in the 45s again, because it's a great run.
No, it's great. The last time that Woolholm and Benjamin raced each other in the Tokyo Stadium, it was the greatest 400 hurdle race we've ever seen. One of the greatest races in the history of the sport. And Woolholm has now run faster than any other race, any other human in history has run outside of that race. The previous fastest was Alison dos Santos, 46:29. Woolholm was 46:28 today. Rai Benjamin has run 46:54. So both of their season's best are faster than what they were going into the Olympics in 2021. Now, obviously, you can't just come out and say, okay, they're both going to make that leap and they're going to be in the 45s or, 46:1. But the stage is set for another special race in Tokyo. And I'm very excited. It's just great that Benjamin appears to be healthy and running at a high level. Warholm's still at a very high level. Even Dos Santos has run 46.6 this year. Beat Rai Benjamin at the pre-classic the last time they raced. So fatal three-way incoming in Tokyo. Well, then we can't hear you.
Masai Russell, 100-meter hurdles, 12:19. This is better than 12:17 she ran early in the year. That had a 2.0 wind. Times were clearly off the chart, but she's now consistently getting in this, 12.2 or under level. World record 12.12. I think it's now how Grant Holloway used to be. Sort of wondering, like, hey, is world record? Is it in jeopardy every time she runs? And I think that's how good she is. Men's hurdles.
I think it. Oh, I was just going to say, I think it is. But the one thing I would also say is in the Olympic Stadium, is she going to be able to get in Tokyo? Is she going to be able to get that friendly tailwind? But no, I'm really impressed by the leap Masai Russell has made last year, because she won the Olympic final last year, but really there were a lot of women at a similar level, and she had a great trial. She had a great Olympics. She came through and it mattered. But was she, this year she's elevated, and she's had some injuries in the middle. That's why she lost some races. But to run 12:17, then 12:22 at USA's, and now 12:19, she's got the two fastest times ever by an American, number 2 and number 3 on the all-time list. The level she's gotten to, and to be able to get back there that quickly after the injury setback earlier this year, really, really great stuff from her.
And this meet was so loaded. The men's hurdles was before the TV window, just like the 800. I didn't see it, but Grant Holloway's just not himself this year. Gets beat 13:15. Cordell Tinch 13:03. Hurdlers, you can be good when you're 35. It's not like Grant's old. It's just not the Grant we're used to seeing. He's still got 4 weeks to get it ready. So for Worlds, trending, I think, I don't know if he's trending in the right direction. He's not going in the wrong direction. But I thought that was interesting. The women's 400, she had Nasser and Paulino square off. Tell me if this was your guys' impression. I thought Nasser was just like booking down the final 100. It looks so fast to me. And then she still gets run down by Paulino, and they're both over 49 seconds. So with Sydney in it at Worlds, it's going to be good.
Yeah, Paulino's got a fantastic final 100. Nasser took off pretty hard. She ran pretty aggressively, and I think she was like moving. Didn't strike me as she was moving like insanely fast, but it's going to be interesting to see, because they're a little bit different style of runner, and it's going to be interesting to see how Sydney fits her style into that, because we really haven't seen her race them very much. She raced Paulino in 2023 in Paris, but that's basically it. So no, it's going to be, that event is bubbling up nicely heading into Tokyo, I would say. And then the other performance, we didn't even, well, you were talking about the 110 hurdles. The performance of the day in the 110 hurdles came in Japan. Rashid Muratake ran 12:92 at this meet in Japan, and like hit most of the hurdles in the process. That was a really impressive run by him. So that's number 2 on the 2025 world list behind Cordell Tinch's 12:87. But that was, that was the fastest time of the day.
That's nuts. His PB
okay,
before
guys.
day 13:04.
Is that other?
Somebody, I saw a thread last night in the message boards. They were upset that there was no Friday 15. If you're just listening to this live on YouTube and you want this as a podcast, you need to join our supporters club. It makes you a letsrun.com VIP. Go to letsrun.com/subscribe. Putting it up on the screen right now. You can get this as a podcast. You get a bonus podcast from us every week. Savings are running shoes, free t-shirt to be joined for a year. You can use code GOAT50 to save 50% off your first year. So they're upset. They're like, where's the Friday 15 yesterday? Because sometimes we preview these meets and I'm like, no, we're doing a live show afterwards. But they're like, oh, there's so much. We have this meet coming up and Grand Slam track. Michael Johnson's statement. I don't think there's much to be said. If you didn't hear Michael Johnson yesterday in Grand Slam track issued a statement. Michael essentially said, I'm paraphrasing, we don't have the money right now. We did give some dates we were going to pay the money and we haven't met those, and that's disappointing. And the only piece of real news I think that he said was what everyone else kind of knew was obvious. He said there will be no 2026 season unless we can pay the athletes for 2025 first. That's a non-starter. Who knows? Maybe they could get every athlete to take some sort of haircut if there was going to be a 2026. But outside of that, if these guys aren't paid to some extent, and I was thinking the full amount, the track world will be so against this. They're just like, sorry, we're not supporting this.
Well, not only that, Front Office Sports had an article about this, and they spoke to an agent, and they said if there's going to be a 2026 season, they might request that some of these prize funds get put into escrow before the season starts, so the athletes can be assured that they're actually going to get paid, and prevent a situation like this. And I don't think that's an unreasonable request. So yeah, uphill battle. I don't think MJ's statement really said anything that we hadn't already figured out. He said they provided that July 31st payment deadline because they really did want to get their athletes paid as soon as possible, but they were too aggressive with that, and that's why they weren't able to get them paid.
I mean, there's a lot of things you could question here. At some point, if the funding didn't come through after Jamaica, when at some point do you have an obligation to say, look, we're running these meets without the money, just as sort of on a principled matter. But the other thing I don't understand is Michael went on the Ready, Set, Go, Justin Gatlin's podcast, like the week of July 31st, right before. I mean, the podcast dropped on the 31st, I believe. And he said, we expect gave the impression there's a payment coming soon. Like, why do you do that? I guess maybe it's just human nature. You tell people what they want to hear, but at that point they must have known the money. I assume the money didn't get backed out in the last 2 days or something. Who knows what's going on there?
Look, I thought it was a joke when they used startup talk. We're a startup, blah, blah, blah. But hey, let's take them out the word. They're a startup. They're full of BS. They don't have the money. They're going bankrupt. So, I feel saddest for the racers, the people that were going to make life-changing money, the guys that they don't have full contracts. I don't really feel bad for Grant Fisher or Sydney McLaughlin or Verone, particularly Sydney, who never races unless now she's getting tons of money. Then she does race. So, hey, at least we got her to race several times this year. It's just
Robert, you muted yourself again.
The other big story was Fred Curley this year. I mean, he goes from Olympic medal to getting arrested twice to now being suspended for whereabouts failure. And the guys, I mean, someone said in the comments, it's hard to run well if your life's spiraling out of control. That seems to be the case. It's just sad to me. I don't know. He may be out of sport. He says he's going to fight it, but it's just, man, we've seen a lot of sprint talents over the years sort of waste things. Xavier Carter comes to mind. Fred Curley here. Not good.
It's just shocking how quickly it's all unraveled, because you flash back 13 or 14 months ago, he's presumably got a very big deal with ASICS. He was the world champion in 2022, silver medalist in 21, running really well. He shows up to the New York City Grand Prix, wears the Puma spikes, parts ways with the sponsor, then comes back, mates the Olympic team, gets the bronze medal. But this year, like you said, Robert, 2 arrests and now the whereabouts situation. It's just a series of bad decisions. And for someone this deep in his career, he'd done pretty well. He didn't have the easiest upbringing. To get to this point, you would think, okay, he's made it. And now he's just been really in a downward spiral this season. So we'll see what happens from here. Those court cases, the arrests are still pending. He's pled not guilty in all of them. So we'll see what comes with that. In terms of next week, we've got 2 Diamond Leagues on the schedule, Lausanne and Brussels. Probably will be going live after both of them. We got Lausanne on Wednesday, Brussels on Friday. Everyone will be trying to qualify for the final. I know we got Thompson and Lyles again in the 100 in Lausanne, Hodgkinson again in Lausanne. Josh Hoey's in the 800 there. So going to be some good races on tap. Looking forward to breaking them all down. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in live to talk about Silesia or listen to us talk about Silesia. Really enjoyed the meet. Glad to have the Diamond League back. And it's going to be a sprint. 3 more Diamond Leagues in the next 12 days. And then the World Championships in Tokyo are less than a month away now. So the track season really, really getting good. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll be back next week. Talk to you then.